So, looks like we are in. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's session of UPSC Buffet by Gallant IAS. So, today we will be discussing, as we have discussed earlier, the 2024 UPSC Prelims PYQ. So, I hope you got some insights on the last few sessions on polity, on how to approach these questions, and the kind of knowledge you need to have to clear the upcoming examination, whether it be 26, 27 or anything after that. So in this session, I'll be sharing few areas where you should be looking at based on the 2024 question, because these kind of predictions and expectations can help us really anticipate the questions that are coming in the examination, and that really reduces our chances of getting surprised and being hit by a bouncer. So that's one thing. So I'll be discussing the topics and I'll be recommending few add-on suggestions to go through, and so you can have an idea of those related topics which might very well be asked in the upcoming examinations. So let's get started. First one. We have discussed this, I think last day also. I just gave you a glimpse of this because it is connected to another entry or regarding the subjects in the schedule 7. So first question, which one of the following statements is correct as per the Constitution of India? So basically they are asking the entries in the schedule 7, whether it's in union list, state list or concurrent list. In this particular question only state list and union list is mentioned. Right off the bat you might think that this is a very technical question requiring absolute knowledge about the list. It has got I think the managerial committee or some committee of Niti Aayog is handling the National Development Council, the powers of National Development Council, and this National Development Council confers the special category status to the states. So that's one thing. Andhra Pradesh and Bihar has been asking for special category state, because once a state is given special category, they'll be getting more benefits from central and state projects. For example, in centrally sponsored projects, it will be 90% will be sponsored by the center and only 10%, unlike the 70-30 split or 50-50 split that is there. So that is there. So that's about National Development Council. Zonal Council, we know that there is North, East, West, South and Central Council. This Northeastern Council is actually initially it was part of, if I think correctly, it was initially a part of this, and later it was separated into a dedicated council. So that's the only knowledge I had. I didn't have a particular knowledge about Northeastern Council. This is where my logic went wrong, because Zonal Council is one where Home Minister is the chairperson. So I assumed that Northeastern Council will have chairman, the Home Minister as its chairman. So obviously comprises of which of the following members. So I thought Home Minister was there, and so I just took the answer, and rest of the things made sense, and I chose this one. But this was wrong, because Home Minister is only ex officio chairman. That meaning the council doesn't comprise of him or her, the Home Minister, but they act as the chairman because they are the chairman of they are the Home Minister. That's like the ex officio, meaning ex officio. They are not directly into this, they are not part of this nor included into this, but they become the chairman by virtue of their position as Home Minister. So actually having that particular knowledge is very much required in this question. So eliminating that would give you the answer right away. Okay, so that's where even myself marked it wrong. This is where our logic can go wrong, but it didn't actually matter much because I was able to clear it. But I'm saying that things like this can happen. Okay, so I'm giving a very realistic picture about how to approach this exam and what about things can go wrong, and learn from the mistakes of others, including myself, so that you can be much better equipped to deal with this examination. So Northeastern Council, bodies like these are important. Okay, it's very easy to know things, because once you make a table, it's very easy. So major bodies are this GST Council, National Development Council, Interstate Council, and yeah, that's it. Interstate Council is a constitutional body under Article 263. So those kind of things you should be aware. Okay, and what all things are associated with the other bodies. If there is any article, if there are constitutional bodies, or if there is any statute, or if they are just executive body, just doesn't have any particular statute or constitutional mentioning. Just like I think National Development Council is like that only. So that's it. Make a note about these bodies. Very important. Okay. These are very important. Moving on. I'll show you, I'll just brief it, because Northeastern Council comprises of governors, chief ministers of constituent states, and 3 members to be nominated by the president. Okay. Other than the governors and chief ministers of the 8 states, 3 members are nominated by the president, and Union Home Minister is the ex officio chairman and minister of donor. That is Department of Northeast Region, Development of Northeastern Region is the ex officio vice chairman of Northeastern Council. So just have an idea that they are ex officio vice chairman and chairpersons. So governors will be there. This is something that we don't usually see in zonal council. Also we don't see governors, but in case of Northeastern Council we see governors and chief ministers, and also 3 members nominated by president. And it's a statutory body under Northeastern Council Act 1971. Then, how many delimitation commission has been constituted by the government of India till December 2023? Delimitation has been in news for a long time because the census has been delayed. 2021 census has been delayed, and subsequent delimitation has been delayed. So it has been in question. So it's very factual. We all know that it's 4 only. So that's the right answer. It's in 51, 61, 71 and 2001. I'll get into the details of that. Delimitation Commission is a constitutional body under Article 82, but there is a Delimitation Act regarding that. So don't confuse it. Constitutional bodies can have, or most likely will have, some legislations backing them. That doesn't mean that they are not constitutional bodies. Okay, don't confuse it like that. So it's Article 82 that Parliament enact Delimitation Act after every 1952 after every census, and Article 170. States gets divided into territorial constituencies. Division of states happens according to Article 170. Enactment of the delimitation procedure happens under Article 82. And the composition of delimitation commission is very important because it's kind of a mixed bag with a retired SC judge, which is something that you don't usually see in these kind of bodies. But yeah, there is a retired SC Supreme Court judge. Okay, that's very important. Chief Election Commissioner and respective state election commissioners appointed by the president. Okay, again important. For time 52, 63, 73, 2002. 62, 72, 2002, 52. Okay, in some, this is except for 52 and 2002, the acts and the year are slightly different. For example, here it's 62 and the act it was done in 63. The act is Delimitation Act was enacted in 62, but it took place in 63. Similarly in 72 also 73. But rest of the time the act and the year was mostly the same. Just remember that. It's a minor fact, not really important. Just have an idea that it was conducted in 52, 63, 73 and 2002. And actually, what's the process of this delimitation? And what's the reason for that? As you all know, you might have known, because the population is increasing and we need to have a fixed number of people electing a particular MLA or MP. Because imagine a constituency where it has 25 lakh people residing and another constituency where 20 lakh people residing. And they both are capable of electing one representative. And so per vote value within these constituencies are different. One constituency is having more value to their vote compared to the other one. So this kind of anomaly goes against the principle of democracy, one vote, one value. So to ensure that these more and more seats are added, and within a constituency they are trying their best to make the number of electors constant. So every constituency will have roughly around 10 lakh in case of Lok Sabha election. They roughly around 10 lakh or something. So they won't be having any variations regarding the value of vote. So then delimitation is carried out in three formats. First of all, there will be division based on number of seats, and that still is based on 1971. Despite the fact that we had a census in 2021, the number of seats are still based on 1971 census. That's very crucial. But at the same time, boundaries of the constituencies and the SC/ST reservation, then the seats that are being reserved for SC/STs are based on 2001 census. So this is a very crucial fact. UPSC can ask this because delimitation, SIR, everything is connected. So election, everything is connected. So a question can be expected. a very factual question can be expected. So number of seats are based on 1971 census and boundaries and SC/ST reservation based on 2001 census. Okay, and there is a reason for that also. Uniform population growth will be achieved by 2026. So up until then, the number of seats are meant to be freezed. So that's I think in 1973 Delimitation Act kind of proposed. In 2002, the decision was taken to freeze it according to the 1971 census until 2026, so as to achieve a uniform population growth and do the delimitation afterwards. There is another important happening occurred recently. This is something that we always hear, that the verdict of under Article 82, constitutional courts are prohibited from here, or constitutional courts or the Lok Sabha or state assemblies are prohibited from disapproving, or they are forced to accept. Forced as in they have to accept the verdicts of delimitation commission. And the rationale behind this is that delimitation is a very extensive process, and if there are any sort of objections or the complaints at a later stage, it becomes very difficult and the entire election process can get delayed very much. So this is the reason why courts or including the assemblies or the parliament is barred from making amendments to the report that is submitted by the delimitation commission. This makes the delimitation commission report a very powerful document. But in 2024, a landmark judgment occurred. That is, in KC Rathod case, the Supreme Court has given a verdict that constitutional courts can review orders of SC. Of course, the scope of judicial review is ever expanding and things like that can happen. Be mindful about this, because this has been a very landmark judgment and I don't think any subsequent judgment has been occurred to annul this judgment. So this verdict still stands. So it's very important, and the rationale that the verdict gave was, if it severely conflicts with constitutional values, this can be reviewed. So even the delimitation commission is under the purview of judicial review. So that's very important and you should be knowing that. It's a very recent fact and it's very important. Okay, moving on. And Article 329 is the one that bars courts from interference in electoral matters. Okay, about 323 from 323 to 329, I guess, 9 or 330, I guess, regards with election commission, matters of election, things like that, universal adult suffrage, things like that. So 329A explicitly bars court interference in electoral matters. But at the same time, we have gotten a verdict in KC Rathod case that constitutional courts can review orders of delimitation commission. So there is some sort of anomaly going on, and we need to be wary about wait until a final verdict is given. If no final verdict is given, UPSC will most likely be asking a question, or even if debates arise, they will be cancelling it. So don't worry about it, but just be mindful about this thing, and it really helps in quoting in GS2 answers, especially regarding the power of judicial review and the ever expanding provisions and ever expanding scope of judicial review. So that's it. You might be understanding the rationale behind why courts are barred from interference in electoral matters, because it severely delays the election process. That's the reason. But at the same time, we have got election petitions. Post-election, we have got election petitions in High Court and Supreme Court. So that is there. This is where polity gets a little tricky, because a reading of this, having this knowledge can conflict with your knowledge of election petition and election, the other, judicial review, things like that. Don't confuse it too much. At the end of the day, judicial review is very much large in scope. So there is very, very little scope of having anything that is outside the purview of judicial review. That's in the practical sounds, it's like that only. Another question. This question is framed in such a way that UPSC is actually testing your the mindfulness when you are attending this examination. And see, this was the 72nd question for set A. I think for most set, this was in the last. So everybody will be very anxious and will be losing their minds over it. And most everybody will be knowing that, okay, Konkani, Manipuri, Nepali, Maithili, they are in the 8th schedule. There are about 22 languages in total. And we will be knowing that, yeah, that's there. But the issue is that they are not asking the last one added. We might think that, okay, 1992 amendment is added. We think that, okay, Maithili, Santali, Bodo, Dogri, these has been added at last. These are the latest additions to the 8th schedule. But the issue is that the latest addition happened in 2004. This was asking about 1992 edition. So just having that idea that the last edition had Maithili, Bodo, Dogri, Santali, that's something we often hear about, was added at last. And it was in 2002 or 2004. Then they are asking about 1992. We can eliminate this one and we can arrive at the answer. UPSC was playing a little trick with our level of attention to detail. So nothing more can be done. Just read your question very carefully. If something like that is being asked, don't just readily jump to the answer. They are not asking about the 2022 one. It's asking about the 1992. Okay. So that's it. And I'll share some insights regarding that also. Basically, these were the articles, these were the languages originally in the 8th schedule. Okay. Assamese, Bengali, Gujarati, Hindi, Kannada, Kashmiri, almost all the languages, major languages are there. And the later additions were Sindhi. In 1967, Sindhi was added by 21st Constitutional Amendment Act. Then, Konkani, Manipuri, Nepali added in 1992. See? Konkani, Manipuri, Nepali added in 1992. That was the case. They're asking this one. This was not the last one. This was the second last one. But if at all you are reading about things like this, it's better to remember the latest edition and remember the date of latest edition. So UPSC will give some provision for elimination. So don't worry about that. You need not go through every detail. As in Sindhi 1967, Manipuri, this becomes very fact heavy, and expecting a question from this is very low. We cannot expect a question. So if at all you are reading this, start with the latest edition and remember the details of that, as in the date, the amendment and the entries. Same way. This is exactly what UPSC was testing here also. Having the knowledge that Maithili, Santali, Dogri was added in 2004, we can know that it was not added in 1982. So anything with Maithili can be eliminated. So this entire thing is gone. 1. So this is how you can make your study more, this is the smart way to approach, I would say. Everybody says hard work and smart work. This is the smart work that they are meaning. So don't go by the bulk of, don't go into the details. If you can get the time, go into it. But you should go through your studies in an iterative pattern. First of all, you need to study basics. Then they'll dive into the details. And basics I mean 8th schedule is been asked. You need to know there are 22 languages and latest editions are these. Okay, and they are made in 2004 and 92nd Constitutional Amendment Act. That's it. Then one very important topic very much related to this was classical languages. This is not a constitutional provision or anything. This is a special recognition given to the languages, and this is undertaken by Ministry of Culture. Okay, that's very important. And there are, of course, you will be coming across the criteria: high antiquity, then literature, having active speakers, literature, things like that are there. There are a few criteria about that. You just have to go through it. It's not very difficult. But the important thing is that up until recently, only 6 classical languages were there. Basically, the South Indian languages, Sanskrit and Odia. Up until recently, this was the case. Since 2004, 2014, no new language was added. But recently, in 2024, these 5 languages were added. Okay, approved. I think they are added also, but the approval is given for Marathi, Assamese, Bengali, Pali and Prakrit to be accorded with the classical language status. So that's very important. This is a very important current affair. I think they are actually already in the list, but I couldn't get the exact clarification on that, but they are approved. That is for sure. So this can be a potential question in the coming years. Then moving on, CDS. This is something you won't be handling or dealing with every other day, because questions about military has been they have been asking up recently, and most questions are generally on the difficult side of things, but this is very easy because you can actually eliminate and get to the answer. CDS, Chief of Defence Staff, you know that the first CDS is Bipin Rawat, General Bipin Rawat. Then permanent chairman of Chief of Defence Chief of Staff Committee. Yeah, makes sense. exercise military command over the 3 service chiefs, principal military advisor to defense minister on all tri-service matter. This makes the most sense. So 3 will be right. So options 1, A, C, D will be there because this makes the most sense. Whether the CDS is permanent chairman of Chief of Staff Committee, maybe. Exercise military command over 3 service chiefs. This is the explicit criteria that was given, because when the office of Chief of Defence Staff was created, there was a lot of controversies and apprehensions regarding bestowing such a power in hands of military, as in having a command over the three service chiefs or the 3 services was the major concern. The government clarified that CDS won't be having any military command over the 3 service chiefs. That is, the CDS won't have a military command over Army, Navy or the Air Force. So those commands will be vested with their respective chief of commands or chief of staffs. So that's very important, and this is very crucial. You can think about it, like India never had a military coup. Almost all our neighbors had military coups, and we are having one of the most powerful military in the world. Despite that fact, our military has been very much democratic, and they're operating within their limits and at the same time protecting the integrity and security of the nation. This is because the political structure is being very carefully structured in a way that there exists no monopoly or accumulation of power or centralization of power to any of the services. So this is one thing that goes against that. Having military command over 3 service chief in hands of one single person goes against separation of powers, and can lead to centralization of power. This has been explicitly mentioned due to the apprehensions and controversies once the office was created. Even without that knowledge, you can know that this could be wrong. So we can eliminate the answers with 3 and can arrive at the answers with 2 and eliminate that answer. You don't need to know much about CDS. It's not a very important or repeated topic, but just understand that they don't have military command over 3 service chiefs. That's the crucial fact that you need to know, and UPSC purposefully kept that in a way that having that knowledge will help you arrive at the answer. And CDS is the principal military advisor to defense minister in all tri-service matters. See, all tri-service matter, he is just the advisor to the defense minister. That's it. Lok Sabha committee. Okay, ethics committee. This is also a current affair. Cash for queries scam was there, and a lot of controversy was going on, and ethics committee was in place. So it came as a current affair. So questions can be expected regarding ethics committee, privileges committee, and these 2 committees are important. Privileges committee in particular is important because every now and then there will be a privilege motion or something regarding the privileges is being discussed. So privilege committee is important. Look into it. First of all, let's crack this question. Initially it was an ad hoc committee. Maybe most committees like this ethics committee, because it's not a financial committee or a permanent committee, it would be it would have started off as an ad hoc committee. Yeah, there is a good chance for that, but not sure. Only a member of Lok Sabha can make a complaint relating to unethical conduct of member of Lok Sabha. This is having the current knowledge and while being in the news really helped, because anybody can make a complaint. In that particular cash for query scam, the one who was involved in that made a complaint through a MP against another MP. So an MP can file a complaint directly. Any other person, any other citizen can file a complaint through an MP with an affidavit. So this is wrong, and we'll get the answer. That's how easy it is framed. And also they cannot take up a matter which is under the consideration of court, that is sub judice. So the answer is right. And few details regarding ethics committee of parliament. Internal parliamentary committees, they are part of internal parliamentary committees, and Rajya Sabha is the one to have the first ethics committee and followed by Lok Sabha. So just have an idea about that. And they examines the unethical conduct, misconduct, conflict of interest of MPs, recommends admonition, reprimand, suspension, expulsion. They can only recommend. They can only recommend, and they do not have a right to actually expel anybody or any MP. The decision is based on the House takes the decision. They can make a report and House can take a decision. So this is it. helps frame and update code of conduct for MPs. Any person can complain against a member through another Lok Sabha MP along with evidence. See, this is the exact thing that has been asked. Any person can complain against another one. If member themselves complain, affidavit is not needed. The speaker is referring the complaint to a committee, and this committee is being later constituted by the speaker. Then the writ of prohibition is an order issued by Supreme Court. Like I said, writs are important and writs are very easy, very rewarding. Quick read, you will get it. Just make a note of it and that's it. Be done with it and occasionally revise it. A government order prohibiting what is writ of prohibition? A government order prohibiting officer prohibiting him from taking a particular action. The Parliament Legislative Assembly to pass a law on prohibition. Lower court prohibiting continuation of proceedings in a case. The government prohibiting it from following an unconstitutional policy. We know that the prohibition mostly deals with what? Supreme Court prohibiting, or Supreme Court or High Court prohibiting the lower court. That's it. It's not the case. This is obviously not the case. Parliament, obviously there is no particular thing. Writs has very little authority over legislative bodies. This is wrong. Government prohibiting it from following an unconstitutional policy. This is very wrong. This is also wrong. All of this doesn't make sense. Even without knowing that, you will be able to arrive at the answer. So that's it. And few notes about writs. Certiorari is not available against private and legislative bodies. Prohibition is not available against administrative, legislative and private entities. And quo warranto only writ where no locus standi. Like I said, no locus standi means the aggrieved person is not required. Mandamus not available to enforce a contract. These are the kind of exceptions to these writs, or the crucial facts regarding each writs. Okay. See, this is not an extensive note, but this is the kind of note you need to have to solve the question. So try to make your notes in such a way that it encompasses little words but more facts. Okay. I hope you really get the idea. Quo warranto doesn't have no locus standi. As in, no locus standi is required. Mandamus not available to enforce a contract. This kind of knowledge helps. This kind of note making is possible when you deal with more and more questions. Try to solve questions from a good test series. Okay. Rely on a test series that doesn't actually go word by word, or try to make it really hard so as to make their test series very competitive. Try to rely on a test series that actually is in line with the UPSC demand. So don't go for the question paper that has got more facts, more everything, things like that. That won't really help you clear this examination, and getting good score in those test series doesn't really matter also. Test series mark also, I would say test series mark doesn't matter. What matters is whether you correct the mistakes and make notes of it, revise it and make it better. That's it. So don't lose yourself over test series mark, and even in the last minute, if you are not getting good mark, doesn't mean that you won't be clearing it. I've got at least 10 to 15 examples where both have happened. People having very good score in the test series failed to clear. People not having very good score managed to clear, not just once, multiple times. So things like that can happen. Don't lose your confidence. Choose a test series that is very much in line with the UPSC demand and not very fact heavy or very difficult to solve. UPSC questions are not difficult per se. It's our perception and the kind of experience we are getting and the pressure that's making it difficult. That's it. You can imagine, like, the kind of questions we are dealing with is actually doable, but at the same time there are test series where we absolutely have no idea. The entire thing will be fully factual, but UPSC is not going that factual. But at the same time, those people who are doing that won't be able to do this, because we overestimate UPSC based on test series. We shouldn't be underestimating UPSC, but overestimation does the same damage. Moving on, the next question. It is the governor of the state who recognizes and declares any community of that state as scheduled tribe. Okay, this is right off the bat, it's very unlikely, because any recognition, declaration of scheduled tribe, scheduled area rests with the president only. A community declared as scheduled tribe in a state need not be so in another state. Makes perfect sense because it's state specific. So 2 is right. So answer 84B. That's 2 only. Then few details regarding Article 244, that's 5th schedule, 244 1, 244 6 schedule areas. I have discussed this yesterday. That's 5th schedule provisions are for control of schedule areas, except in Mizoram, Meghalaya, Assam and Tripura. They come under the 6th schedule areas and they have autonomous district councils. So they have higher autonomy in terms of legislative, executive and certain judicial powers also. But the 5th schedule areas are having a slightly lesser level of autonomy, and they are classified based on tribal preponderance and declared by president, but governor exercises the executive powers, and governor submit annual report, and governor is empowered to ensure that state assembly laws are not applicable to the schedule area. They don't have any political or legislative autonomy, only extends to certain executive powers. And there is a tribal advisory council in states having sufficient sufficient number of MLAs from the ST community. Then Article 244, 6th schedule, tribal areas of Mizoram, Meghalaya, Assam, Tripura and Mizoram, and greater autonomy, again declared by president. Central and state established autonomous councils. They actually have more autonomy. These autonomous councils have actually more autonomy, administrative autonomy, legislative, financial and some degree of judicial autonomy, because in certain cases they can have their own personal laws and they can have their own adalats, things like that are there. So as to preserve their culture and to protect their heritage. Prevent establishment of laws passed by Parliament and State Assembly. That is there. 10 tribal areas have autonomous councils. It's better to identify the names and their location. For example, Dima Hasao, Darjeeling in West Bengal, Dima Hasao in Assam, the Tripura Autonomous District Council, things like that. It's very easy to remember. The names are not that difficult. So try to remember that. Okay, only 10 names are there, and remember the name of the Autonomous Council and the state which it is in. So moving on, next question. With reference to Speaker of the Lok Sabha, consider the following statement. While resolution of removal of the Speaker of the Lok Sabha is under consideration, he or she shall not preside. Makes perfect sense. If the person who is guilty or accused, he cannot be the judge of his own case. So not that the speaker is the one deciding, but he cannot be the one there conducting the presiding procedures. This goes against the principle of natural justice. Basic thing. This is what natural justice is. So shall not preside. Yeah, that's true. He shall not have the right to speak. See, the person is only accused and resolution of removed is there, but denying that person the right to speak goes against natural justice also, because right to be heard. Just like yesterday we discussed now, one cannot be a judge of his own case, but at the same time the right to free trial also exists. So this is wrong. He or she can speak, and we will be arrived at the answer. And the other one is also true actually. Since he or she is an MP and not disqualified yet, their right to vote actually remains, and since they are not presiding, they can vote. If they are presiding officers, they can cast only casting vote. But if they are not presiding, they are just regular MP and they can cast vote on the first instance itself. So this is wrong and this is wrong, and we will be arriving at the answer. This is how the principle of natural justice comes into the picture of this. You can just connect these topics and actually get to the answer more logically. Like speaker, they cannot vote in the first instance, but can cast during a tie. Then unlike speaker, cannot preside over RS when resolution of VP. Similarly, like for speaker, if the removal of speaker is under consideration, he or she cannot preside. If the removal of vice president, that is the chairman of RS is considered, Rajya Sabha is considered, he or she cannot preside, but can speak but without vote. Again, he or she can speak. In both cases, they can speak but without vote. Because what? The difference here is that the Rajya Sabha chairman is not an MP. So he is not a member of the house. So obviously he cannot vote. He or she cannot vote but can speak. But in the case of speaker, he can vote. He or she can vote and speak. So anybody whose removal is under consideration, speaker or deputy speaker, chairman or deputy chairman, they cannot preside. Basic thing. Basic natural justice. So moving on. This is one area where there are a lot of confusions. So this is, we cannot solve it very logically because it's quite a bit of factual. Even for me, I think it's very difficult because it seems very factual for me. So I need to learn it. I kind of learned it, but I forgot few things. So I was not able. I was not very confident in attending this question. So I just left it. So a bill pending in Lok Sabha lapses on its dissolution. Okay. Okay, it makes sense. A bill passed by Lok Sabha and pending in Rajya Sabha lapses on dissolution. This is true. Because a bill that has been passed by Lok Sabha that has got dissolved, then then the bill is not valid, and it's pending in Rajya Sabha also. Then it is not valid. So that's true. A bill in regard to which President of India has notified his or her intention to summon the houses to a joint sitting lapses on the dissolution of Lok Sabha. No, this is actually factual. It's not the case. So the answer is B. 94. It's B because this is factual. This is slightly logical because a bill passed by Lok Sabha and pending in Rajya Sabha lapses on dissolution of Lok Sabha, because what, a bill passed by a Lok Sabha that lost the majority or it got dissolved, and then the the bona fide nature of the bill is in question because the Lok Sabha that passed it is no longer there and it's pending in Rajya Sabha also. So in such a case, the bill itself lapses. So this makes perfect sense, and this is factual only. Okay, so if president has summoned the houses for joint sitting, it doesn't really have an effect on the dissolution of the bill. It doesn't dissolve. Okay, this is wrong. I'll provide you with a table to make this thing a little easier. A bill that is pending in Lok Sabha lapses. Yes, because LS is when Lok Sabha is dissolved, it lapses. Passed by Lok Sabha, pending in Rajya Sabha, if Lok Sabha is dissolved, it lapses. Pending in Rajya Sabha but not passed by Lok Sabha, then no issues, because what, the Lok Sabha is not passed yet and it's pending there, and the Lok Sabha got dissolved, then no issues because it's not passed by Lok Sabha yet, and a Lok Sabha that is supposedly not having the confidence, it has not passed it and it's pending in Rajya Sabha, so it hasn't touched the bill, so it's intact only. So that's not issue. Passed by both houses, ascending president assent, no issues, absolutely no issues. Once the bills are passed and assent is waiting, there's just no issues with that. Returned by president for reconsideration, because again no issue, new parliament can consider. Pending for joint sitting, no, because joint sitting overrides the dissolution process. So that's it. Just take a screenshot of this and you will be able to arrive at the, quickly revise it. This is kind of tricky with the numbering and the kind of combinations that could have, but it's very easy if you have a table like this. I made this table after this examination, so for 2025. So it really helped me in solving most of the questions in the test series. So summoning and prorogation. This is again a common area regard with Parliament. Prorogation of a house by President of India does not require advice of Council of Ministers. Just think about it logically. Anything that President does, in most cases, except for some scenarios, will require the advice of Council of Ministers. President is bound by the advice of Council of Ministers. That is explicitly mentioned in the Constitution. So that is there. So this is wrong. There are few instances where President need not have the advice of need not require the advice of Council of Ministers. That is true. For example, if the government loses the power or the government loses the majority or the no confidence motion is passed, then there are no Council of Ministers. So then the President is not bound by the Council of Ministers because they are no longer Council of Ministers. So things like that can happen. But in most cases, President is bound by the advice of Council of Ministers. So this is wrong. Prorogation of a house is generally done after house is adjourned, signed by, but there is no bar to President prorogating the house, which is, this is true only. Usually it's done like that, but there is no bar in President doing that. Dissolution of Lok Sabha is done by the President, who, save in exceptional circumstances, does so on the advice of Council of Ministers. This is mostly the case. For example, if they are losing the majority or the party in power wants to prepone the election or calls for a quick election, by elections, they can actually do so by recommending the President for dissolving the Lok Sabha. Things like that can happen. So one is wrong and 2 is right. So we'll get the answer as C. 95 is C. So that's how we arrive at the answer. And few facts regarding that. 85, Article 85 is the one dealing with the summoning and prorogation of Parliament. So 85A is regarding the summoning, except for the gap, ensuring that the gap of 2 sessions does not exceed 6 months. That's the only thing that is mentioned in the Constitution. That Constitution doesn't mention that Lok Sabha need to have 2 sittings or 3 sittings or anything, but it only mentions that there should not be a gap more than 6 months. Maximum gap between 2 sessions should be 6 months, maximum. So that's the only thing that's mentioned in the Constitution. So as such a question has been asked earlier also. Constitution prescribes 3 sessions of Parliament every year, things like that. We have 3 sessions, but it's not really according to the Constitution or mentioned or mandated by the Constitution. Constitution just says that just 2 months, after between 2 sessions, maximum 6 months is the delay. Then prorogation is done by the President under Article 5, which ends the session without affecting pending bills. No issues when the House has been prorogued. As in, it is not dissolved or anything. The bills are there, and if the session just ended, for example, if monsoon session ended, it can be taken up in the winter session. So it's fine only, no issues. So only thing that affects is notices for presenting bills, they lapses. Okay, so for prorogation, only notices of bills lapses. But in the case of UK, the pending bills also lapses. That's one difference between UK Parliament and Indian Parliament. In India, the bills are not affected by prorogation, but in UK, bills are also affected by the prorogation. In India, only notices to presenting the bills are affected and they lapse. That's it. So that's about it. I really hope this session was really helpful for you. Stay tuned for more. I'll be sharing more details, more content-based approaches in the coming sessions, and we'll be discussing some test series questions also, which we can expect as questions in 2026. Also, we'll be dealing with some important concepts that we need to be covering in the expecting the coming 26 or 27 prelims, those who are writing that, and some insights about mains. Soon we'll be conducting an FAQ session. I really hope your participation on that, so that we can make this session more productive and based on a feedback improvement. So that's about it. Thank you so much and see you soon.